This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here's one of the more exciting laptops of 2016. This is the HP Spectre. Yes, they've used that name before. It's not the Spectre X360. It's not the Spectre X2. You could call it the Spectre 13, though HP doesn't specifically do that unless you're looking up the exact model number you want to buy. And there was a Spectre 13 in 2014. So it's one of the most exciting and confusing in terms of names products. Anyway, you won't confuse it visually with anything else except for maybe the Spectre X360 in ash silver at first. That's because it shares the same kind of brownish, blackish gray. It's a complex tone, matte finish here with copper highlights. They call it copper. It's kind of more like gold, like bling gold. Look at the back. Bling bling. Shout out in the comments. I'd like to know, do you think this is gaudy or do you think it's beautiful? It is currently the thinnest laptop in the world. That's right, 10.4 millimeters. That's 0.41 inches. It weighs 2.45 pounds, which makes it one of the lightest. Not the very lightest, though, because we reviewed products like the Samsung Notebook 913-inch that was 1.9 pounds. And there's the LG Gram 15, which is 2.2 pounds, and it's a 15-inch. So anyway, beyond a certain point, light is light enough. I mean, skinny is skinny enough. The nice thing about this, unlike some other products made by Apple, is it doesn't suffer in terms of performance. This Core i5, Core i7, dual-core Ultrabook CPUs inside. And it has more ports, 2 Thunderbolt 3 and a USB-C for charging and USB-C. And these Thunderbolt 3s also do USB-C Gen 2. Now, to be fair, this is a 13.3-inch laptop, more room than the 12-inch MacBook. And inside we have a gorgeous screen, a lot more. We're going to talk about it now. Well, it's certainly unique looking, isn't it? I don't think anybody's going to say, oh, it looks like a MacBook. This looks like something that Donald would be taking to the opening of his next resort, really. And it's pretty impressive that, in fact, it starts at $1,169, which is around the usual price for a premium Ultrabook. It's 13.3 inches, so it's an absolutely normal size when it comes to things like keyboard and screen if you're used to, well, using 13-inch Ultrabooks. As you can see on the back by the bling bar, the goldy, coppery bar right there, that's where all the ports are, it's just like the HP Omen 15. So we have 3 ports. They're all USB-C 3.1 Gen 2, and the 2 on the left there are Thunderbolt 3 as well. So talk about forward thinking there. Keyboard is backlit and reasonable contrast there, something HP learned with the Spectre X360 when they offered the ash silver version. It's so thin, we can use a tablet stand here to show it off to you. It's really pretty impressive stuff. At 2.45 pounds, you're just not going to really feel this much in your bag or when you're carrying it around. But kudos to HP. They did find a way to get Core i5 and i7 dual-core 15-watt Ultrabook CPUs with Intel HD 520 graphics. You're not going to get dedicated graphics in this, folks. I mean, getting dedicated graphics doesn't even happen in 13-inch laptops, generally speaking. Even better, it's not just another pretty face. You actually have the option of getting the base model. It's $1,169, Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gig PCIe NVMe SSD. For those of you who are not into all those acronyms, that means the faster kind of SSD that you can get. It's a faster protocol, faster communication. The Dell XPS 13 uses that as well, and so does the Apple MacBook 12-inch, and most other laptops are still using SATA 3. So zippy storage speeds there. The 8 gigs of RAM is soldered on board. It is not upgradable. You can open this up, however, and you can access the SSD should you wish to upgrade it yourself or swap the Wi-Fi card. I don't know why you'd want to, or service the battery. Speaking of the SSD, you can order it with a 512 gig SSD. That's about $150 more, so not too much of an upcharge. Thank God those prices are coming down in general. Also, you can get the Core i7. This is the one in the United States. Best Buy will be stocking for $12.49. So $80 to go from a Core i5 to a Core i7. Either way, obviously you're getting full Ultrabook level performance here, and we'll show you some benchmarks so you get an idea of how it performs. Now we have the Core i7 model clocked at 2.5 gigahertz with turbo boost to 3.1 gigahertz, so that's what our scores are based on, and it does very well. In fact, it's right up there with the Razer Blade Stealth Core i7, and you know what? These are all running the same Ultrabook CPUs with Intel HD 520 graphics. The difference between these, when we show you the comparisons, It is really actually fairly small. But anyway, here's our PC Mark 8 score, where it did better than average, likely thanks to the very fast SSD, 3372 for our home accelerated test. Geekbench 3, 3317 single core, 6992 multi-core. It's a good show for a Core i7 Ultrabook CPU. And speaking of the SSD, here's our Crystal Disk Mark score. The read is particularly impressive right over here. I would have liked to see the write speeds higher. We ran this several times. This is what it keeps doing. To be honest, PCIe SSD drivers, especially NVMe drives in Windows 10, are a work in progress. They still have to do some more work, Microsoft, to actually get the performance and the throughput up there where it should be. However, this number has got to be the highest I've ever seen for the sequential read speed. And this is not a gaming laptop, this is an Ultrabook, but you can see our 3D Mark 11P score, which is a performance level score, 1676, and it's scored around 500 for the extreme test. So, casual games, yeah, sure. Windows Store games, yes. This is not for playing Fallout 4. No, Ultrabook 13-inch model actually is, though. But speaking of that, we do know the Razer Core is coming someday. The external graphics box that you can put a desktop graphics card in uses Thunderbolt 3. Now, Razer has said that it takes a lot of work with the drivers to get this working. It doesn't mean that it will necessarily work with this laptop, though we do have 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports here. We can only hope, and that could open up some gaming horizons for games like first-person shooters that really are not very CPU intensive. Now the display, this is a stunning display. At first I was like, oh, 1080p. Now I know these super thin and light Ultrabooks are all using 1080p to reduce power consumption because there's not much room for a battery. The Samsung Notebook 9 13.3 inch, for example, the LG Gram 13 and 14, even the LG Gram 15, but this is one of the nicest displays I've laid eyes on in a while, and in no way do I feel like it's not sharp enough when I read text. I use this side by side with 4K displays, and I can't say that I really have any complaints. And the color is vibrant here. Now, it represents the full sRGB spectrum and 76% of OWRGB. There are ones that rate higher. However, the color accuracy, the vibrance, and the contrast here come together to make this really a stunning display. The blues here in this bocalicious picture of some greenery are nice. The way the highlights pop on that flower there for my desktop photo, which is a photo I took with the Sony A7S camera, or A7 rather, it's just a very good display. Black levels are quite low at 0.3. Max brightness is 315 nits as measured with our Spider 4 Pro colorimeter, so that's a pretty bright display. And contrast is thus 950 to 1, which is quite high. Good job here, HP, really, very nice. The Spectre X360 had a very nice 1080p display, and this one is even nicer. The only drawback is no touch. You can poke at this Gorilla Glass all you want, and nothing is going to happen. And I do like to have touch on a 13-inch laptop because it's close enough, the display, that I do reach out and touch and then go, oh, right, I can't. The bezels here are not absolutely teeny. Dell has turned you all into monsters with their Infinity displays who are looking for no bezel displays. You're not going to get that here, in part probably because there's carbon fiber in this lid. They need enough expanse to make this rigid enough. I don't think it's an ugly looking thing at all, though. And we do have enough room for a 720p webcam up there. Yay, it's not a shin cam. This over here is pretty darn tall, but it does make it actually kind of look like the display is floating above the keyboard deck, and that's a nice thing. Speaking of the keyboard, that is not something that is easy to do on a laptop this thin without going and doing weird things like the 12-inch MacBook with the Switch-style keyboard. This is a normal keyboard. It is low travel. It is, however, one of the crispest, nicely damped keyboards I've used. I thought I wasn't going to like this. I tried it on the table, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Put it on your lap ergonomically where you should be using it, and it's a very precise, crisp, pleasant keyboard to work with. It's also backlit. There's one stage of backlighting. You can turn it on using the key right over here or turn it off as you see fit. And contrast is okay. You know, HP and their lack of contrast on laptop keyboards, I don't know. This is actually the improvement over the original HP Spectre X360 look, which was silver with white lettering. Boy, you could not see that in dim lighting. This you can pretty much see everywhere. This is almost kind of a peachy color a lot of the time here, and the backlighting is just flat out white. These grills over here that HP was so proud of, well, they have quad stereo speakers. This is something that we also saw in the Samsung Notebook 9 Pro, a very different kind of machine, but there's 2 drivers on each side. And in theory, there's software there, audio control software, if you want to have multi-stream, so you can have 2 different streams coming out of 2 sets of speakers. Blow your mind there, won't it? Anyway, it sounds pretty good. Let's play a video so you can hear it. HP does not believe in loud. Funny thing about HP. All right, let's hear how it sounds. Our volume's at 70.
This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and by popular request, here it is, the top of the line. This is the Samsung Note.
It's decent. It's reasonably full for a 13-inch laptop. You're not going to mistake this for a stereo system exactly, are you? But it's pretty decent, and it's loud enough to hear if you're in a noisy room. Headphone jack, audio sounds very good there, which is true of most all laptops on the market these days, honestly. The speakers, by the way, courtesy of Bang & Olufsen, as we see the logo over here. HP has been partnering with them for a lot of their higher-end laptops lately. Now, how about structural rigidity? For something that is this thin, it could be awful floppy. The LG Grams, for example, were super floppy. If we twist the lid, it's mostly carbon fiber here. You can flex it. It's nothing I would consider bad. That comes with the territory with carbon fiber. When it's closed, this thing is very, very rigid. I can't budge it at all. So you have a metal frame in here and you have carbon fiber. And in fact, the panel underneath, we can splice in a picture so you can see that I took. You can actually see the bare carbon fiber on the underside of this panel when you take it off. If you do want to service it, by the way, HP just likes to do this. They did this with the Omen 15. There are screws here, and it's only 5 screws total, 3 here, 2 here. You have to pull off the rubber strips. You don't have to pull off the rubber strip in the middle, just top and the bottom. So just be careful. Use a fingernail or something like that. Start in one corner, pull slowly, and then the very, very sticky adhesive should stay in place so you don't have to worry about it when you put it back on. Now, you're not going to want to open this up unless, obviously, you're upgrading the SSD because RAM is soldered on. You can't change that, and there's no reason to change the Intel 8260 Wi-Fi 802.11ac card with Bluetooth because it works perfectly well, and it's the best that Intel currently has to offer. Now notice over here there are fans, and when we put in our picture of the internals, you'll see the position of those. Actually 2 fans. Usually you just see 1 fan with a Ultrabook that has a dual-core CPU and no dedicated graphics. So HP did this what they call hyperbaric chamber thing. So there's a little fuzzy felt around each fan enclosure so that it doesn't suck from the inside. It's trying to suck from here. Air, that is, it's trying to suck. I know what you're thinking. And it exhausts them out here. Now the only bad thing about this is just where your legs tend to be if you're resting it on your lap. So be careful, you know, be aware. If you start to hear the fan going, it might be strangling on your pants leg or something like that. It doesn't need a whole lot of clearance, and it doesn't really, generally speaking, run hot. So it's not the biggest of issues. But if you're editing 1080p video or something, don't block these over here. These, of course, are pretty hard to block. The laptop does get warm here. It does not ever get burning hot. Carbon fiber just tends to not, and HP's cooling is effective. You will hear the fans when it's plugged in and charging, and that's not so unusual with thin Ultrabooks. Just that generates heat, the act of charging actually, and it's very quiet. They'll run, but they're not going to scream and wheeze. If you are doing something like trying to make it play BioShock Infinite or something like that, or, well, edit a lot of 1080p video, the fans will come on, you'll hear them, and they'll be loud, but you know, something this thin and this light cannot get that loud. So you'll hear it going, not as annoying sounding as that, but you'll hear it. And again, that's the price we pay for something that is 10.4 millimeters thin. And here we have a who's who among skinny high-end laptops or Ultrabooks. 13.3-inch Dell XPS 13 there has the smallest footprint. It's not the thinnest, but goodness knows it's not really thick either. It weighs 2.6 pounds if you go for the non-touchscreen version, 2.8 pounds if you get touch. The HP Spectre has a bigger, flatter kind of footprint. And then we have the 12-inch MacBook, which, you know, because it tapers on the sides, looks just as thin as the HP to me. I mean, we're really literally splitting hairs here at this point. But the MacBook, of course, is a 12-inch display, higher resolution than the non-touch XPS 13 and the HP Spectre, but smaller at 12 inches. Now, as you might notice, just in the course of doing this video review, we have fingerprints here already. It does pick up fingerprints, not like mad, but it does. The thing is, they're really hard to get off. I find I have to use some soft soap, my favorite thing, soft soap, and a damp cloth, and then dry it up, or a little rubbing alcohol also does it to get the oils out that really the finish absorbs. Thankfully, it doesn't do it like mad, like I said, but it does. This will get icky, but you can just give it a wipe with anything and it cleans up. Let's talk about ports. It's really cool. We have Thunderbolt 3 on board. Also does USB-C. We got two of those Thunderbolt 3 ports that also do USB-C 3.1. And we have the one all by itself over here that does USB-C 3.1, and it handles charging the charger plugs in there. So it's not like the MacBook where you only have one port and you're either charging it or you're doing something like driving a monitor or you're going off and shopping for some dongles. However, you still do need dongles. Obviously, there's no HDMI port on here. There's no display port on here. There's no Ethernet port on here. There's no standard USB 3.0 port, is there? Well, HP does give you a dongle adapter in the box that goes from USB-C to USB 3. So you can use a normal USB peripheral right out of the box because there's an adapter there. Alternatively, there are a lot of USB-C adapters and dongles and docks on the market. Not too many Thunderbolt 3 products yet, mostly docks. And this, I know somebody at HP is going to have a fit every time we show a Dell accessory with an HP laptop, but Dell makes this USB-C multifunction guy here. This works really well. You get VGA, you got your HDMI, you have Ethernet, you have a regular USB 3.0 port here. So this is about 80 bucks or so. And then there's lots of individual dongle adapters now that just go from USB-C to DisplayPort or to HDMI, individual. You get the idea. And those tend to be between $20 and $30. So plan on accessorizing unless you don't tend to use this with peripherals. So how about battery life? These skinny laptops, especially with a Core i5 or Core i7, can't be good, right? HP claims 9 hours in their dreams. I'm doing about 6 or so. This is a 38 watt-hour battery that's sealed inside. Compared to the XPS 13, which is a thicker laptop. It has room for more battery. That has a 56 watt-hour battery. Now, HP has done a good job with power management here, and the fact that that even manages 6 hours is pretty decent. And that's at 50% brightness. This is a bright display, so that's not bad. And that's in productivity and streaming video work. If you're going to be editing 1080p video or compiling large programs like over and over as you squash each bug, well, it will be shorter. The charger is, well, a little embarrassing. Well, the nice thing is that you get more cord. You can, I tell you, you can be in Texas and plug this in Arkansas and the cord will reach. This is about 10 feet of cord or more here. But what's embarrassing is this is such a knockoff of the Apple charger. Notice this comes right off just like the Apple charger, except somebody at HP probably said, oh my God, we so copied the Apple charger. So we're not going to give you that handy little piece that Apple includes with just the prongs here. So if you don't need 12 feet of cord, you can just use it with this section of cord right here. Well, they didn't include that, folks, so you do end up using all of that cord. Maybe it will be an optional plug accessory. So honestly, this bling ain't your thing. HP did a bang-up job here. Coming in at this price with something this really, it's pretty good looking. Gosh darn it. I mean, it is blingy, but it's good looking. This thin, this light, and with Core i5, Core i7 performance, and really, really nice display. You're not going to look at that and say, I wish I had some 4K wonder on there, especially at 13.3 inches. Just nice colors. No touch. Yeah, that's too bad. And trackpad works well too, by the way. It's a pretty fast trackpad in terms of how quickly your finger moves across the surface. It's sturdily enough build. It's just really good job, HP. So that's the 2016 HP Spectre, the world's thinnest 13.3-inch Ultrabook, the world's thinnest laptop currently. I'm sure somebody's going to try to beat them on this. Anyway, it looks like $1 million. I mean, literally, you know, but it's actually not. It's about the usual price for a premium Ultrabook. And for that, you do get a stunning design. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's a pretty neat looking laptop. Let me tell you, it's just fun taking pictures of this thing. Backlit keyboard, one of the best 1080p displays I have ever seen. Core i5 and i7 performance, fast PCIe SSDs. There's a lot going for this. No touchscreen. There's one thing right there, though. I mean, with a smaller laptop like this, I do tend to reach out and touch the screen and they go, oh, right, whoops, nope, can't do that. It can get a little bit noisy here. We have some pretty cutting edge ventilation going on, but it's particularly if it's plugged in and you're pushing it hard, you're going to hear those fans. Now it's a teeny skinny little thing, so the fans can never get that loud. This is not a Hoover vacuum cleaner, but you know, there's a lot of heat it has to dissipate, but it manages fine, and it keeps the CPU cores in safe range. So what can I say? If you like it, buy it. It's probably going to be hard to get one at first. It seems like HP is having trouble keeping them in stock, but for the price, you get a very solid machine and one that is incredibly easy to carry around. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos.